In this below sea level basin, steady drought and record summer heat make Death Valley a land of extremes. Yet each extreme has a striking contrast. Towering peaks are frosted with winter snow. Rare rainstorms bring vast fields of wildflowers. Lush oases harbor tiny fish and a refuge for wildlife and humans. Despite its morbid name, a great diversity of life survives in Death Valley. Death Valley National Park is a national park in California and Nevada located east of the Sierra Nevada, occupying an interface zone between the arid Great Basin and Mojave Deserts in the United States. The park protects the northwest corner of the Mojave Desert and contains a diverse desert environment of salt flats, sand dunes, badlands, valleys, canyons, and mountains. It is the largest national park in the lower 48 states and has been declared an international biosphere reserve. Approximately 95% of the park is a designated wilderness area. It is the hottest and driest of the national parks in the United States. The second lowest point in the Western Hemisphere is in Badwater Basin, which is 282 feet below sea level. The park is home to many species of plants and animals that have adapted to this harsh desert environment. On July 10, 1913, a record 134 degrees Fahrenheit was measured at the Weather Bureau's observation station at Greenland Ranch, now the site for the Furnace Creek Inn. This was the highest temperature ever recorded on Earth. Perhaps the most famous and most visited location in Death Valley, Badwater Basin, sits 18 miles south of Furnace Creek, the base camp of Death Valley National Park. Badwater Basin is the lowest point in North America, with an elevation of 282 feet below sea level. The actual point varies from time to time because of the shifting sands and dirt that are moved by wind and other natural forces. The Badwater Salt Pan is part of one of the largest salt pans in North America. It covers an area of 200 square miles. The salt pan is a remnant of Death Valley's last significant lake, which existed around 2,000 years ago. The salt deposits continually stack on top of the other, creating a layer of salt thousands of feet thick. Faulting is one of the main reasons Death Valley exists and has occurred in multiple forms throughout the valley. This faulting caused the creation of the Black Mountains to the east and the Panamint Range to the west, both of which shield Death Valley from precipitation. Here at Badwater, new salts are introduced more commonly than at other locations in Death Valley. Badwater's low elevation and location within a floodplain actually allows it to be partially flooded throughout the year. As you move away from the wettest regions of Badwater Basin, you will find the salt starts to become more rough and rigid. Just to the south, contraction of the salt during intervals of drought creates polygonal features in the salt. These polygons grow at their edges as salt water seeping up the cracks evaporates. The growing polygons push against each other, causing the edges to bend up to form salt saucers. These formations are quite delicate and would normally be easily swept away by precipitation. However, the average rainfall in Death Valley is only 2 inches per year, and the area has an annual evaporation rate of up to 150 inches. For perspective, that means a 12-foot deep and 30-mile long lake would dry up in a single year. The salts at Devil's Golf Course have formed spires or pinnacles, which are the result of crystallized salt being eroded by wind and rain over hundreds of years. The pinnacles grow very slowly, perhaps as little as an inch in 35 years. Wind and rain continually work to erode and sculpt the salty spires into an amazing array of shapes. However, because Devil's Golf Course sits at a slightly higher elevation than Badwater, the little precipitation it receives cannot keep the salt smooth and fine. Salt Creek flows through a landscape of salt-encrusted clay lake beds, which are remnants of an ancient salt lake known as Lake Manly. These shallow waters contain up to 1.6 times the salinity of seawater. There can be so much salt flowing through the streams that some banks are overhung with crystals rather than leafy canopies. Despite this, the creek is home to a small desert species known as the Salt Creek pupfish. This unique type of inland fish is able to survive in this type of water by actively drinking their natural food source, brine shrimp, extracting the water and excreting salts from its kidneys and gills. Much like saltwater fish, these fish have adapted to increase its blood serum concentration as the salinity increases over the seasons, all while maintaining a constant percentage of total body water. While being constantly submerged in water, the pupfish still need to avoid the harsh desert heat, and they have developed their own unique adaptations to keep cool through daily movements from deep water to shallow water. These pupfish are so quick that we have to slow down the film to even catch a glimpse of them. But as we see, pupfish are not the only living creatures in these salty creeks. There are many other tiny bugs that inhabit these areas. Death Valley is the hottest and driest place in North America, yet it is home to over 1,000 species of plants. These plants live in 3 different life zones of Death Valley: the Lower Sonoran, the Upper Sonoran, and the Hudsonian. Pickleweed, sometimes called pickle bush or iodine bush, is a small shrub with woody stems, tiny flowers, and tiny leaves that appear at the stem joints. Pickleweed is often found around dry lake borders where there is ample moisture. It is also found in brackish streams and can tolerate high levels of alkalinity or salt. It grows below 4,000 feet in the Lower Sonoran Zone around suitable places in Death Valley. The name comes from the stems, constructed of tiny pickle-shaped joints stacked on top of each other. Steeped in brine from top to bottom, pickleweed is very much a pickled weed. Desert holly is a shrub generally found between 2 to 3 feet in height that lives near dry alkaline slopes and washes throughout Death Valley. This plant is usually found 3,000 feet and below in elevation. The leaves are usually pale green or even nearly white. When silvery and dry, the leaves reflect much of the incoming sunlight and photosynthesis drops by 50% or more. The silvery colors of the leaves is caused from the salt left over after water absorption. The Joshua tree is found in the eastern Mojave Desert and reaches heights of 3 to 15 feet, often branching out to 3 to 5 feet. These trees grow around 5,000 to 6,000 feet in elevation and also grow white cream flowers which eventually produce fruit. The Joshua tree received its name from the Mormon pioneers. The pioneers stated that the tree resembled the biblical figure Joshua, seeing the limbs of the tree outstretched in supplication, guiding the travelers westward. The pinyon juniper, or California juniper, which can be referred to as a tree or a tall shrub, can grow anywhere from 3 to 20 feet in height. It often has several trunks, with branches which are thick and twisted. The leaves are scale-like. The fruits tend to be bluish in color at first, but then turn to a reddish-brown. The larger shrub of the pinyon tend to be the females. These trees are found anywhere from 2 to 6,000 feet in elevation, but tend to be higher in the mountain ranges of the Mojave Desert. The grizzly bear prickly pear cactus is a low, spreading cactus, also known as old man prickling pear or Mojave prickly pear. It is swathed in flexible, downward-pointing spines up to 8 inches long. The yellow flowers appear in late spring. In some populations, the flowers are pink or reddish-purple, as well as yellow. The pads grow in clusters from a large underground root. As clusters deteriorate and die, the root continues to produce new pads nearby. The silver cholla is a cactus. Considering the name Death Valley, one would be surprised to find that a large amount of creatures have adapted to living in this harsh desert environment. A great example of these adaptations is the local bird population. Most of these birds have developed physiological or behavioral mechanisms to avoid drought and find water even in the most severe of conditions. Larger mammals, like the coyote and desert kit fox, are the top predators that forage widely within and beyond the desert. The coyote is fast, so it can easily catch smaller prey for protein and nutrition. They can eat plants, seeds, cactus, beans, dates, and even dry grass in order to survive. Most of these plants provide them with the water they need. The desert bighorn sheep of North America usually occupy steep terrains and high elevations close to the Great Basin, Mojave, and Sonoran deserts. These sheep near Death Valley may drink only once in 10 to 14 days due to limited water sources. They often gain hydration from precipitation and runoff waters that can be trapped in bedrock potholes. Despite its name, Death Valley can be very suitable habitat for a wide variety of wildlife. When you're paying a visit to Death Valley, the Ubehebe crater is not the sight to miss. This incredible crater is 600 feet deep and half a mile across, of pure magnificence. The Ubehebe crater beautifully captures the colors of the surrounding area, having a golden brown appearance in the daytime to a must-see fiery red-orange color during the sunset. The Timbisha, the Native Americans that inhabited Death Valley, called the crater Tempintawusa, which means coyote's basket. When talking with the Timbisha Indians, they explained that they believe the Ubehebe crater started it all. The crater's age is estimated to be between 600 to 2,000 years old. It is the result of a Mar volcanic eruption. To understand the origin of the crater and what a Mar volcano is, we will demonstrate this eruption by pumping air into a deflated balloon that is covered in snow. Mar eruptions occur when the heat of the magma meets with the cool groundwater and turns it into steam. The steam, demonstrated by the balloon, creates pressure under the surface, triggering an explosion. During the explosion, little magma is ejected and the ground sinks, creating a crater. You don't have to hike down to the bottom of the crater to enjoy its splendor, but if you're brave, there is a trail that will lead you there. The bottom of the crater is full of different colors of mud. The different colors of mud represent short-lived lakes that used to be in the bottom. Going down is not the problem, but hiking back up will be the fun part. Will you take the challenge in conquering the beast of a crater? You can notice the fault line if you look to the other side of the crater. Near the bottom of the crater on the eastern wall, there are large fan-shaped rock deposits that add to its beauty. Surrounding the area, there are buildups of rocks called cinders. Cinders are ash-colored rocks that are the result of the solidification of lava with other volcanic materials. In the area closest to the crater, the cinder buildup is 150 feet deep. Ubehebe is not the only crater around Death Valley. There are smaller craters that surround the area. The crater right next to the main attraction, Little Hebe, is kind of like Ubehebe's little brother. The rim of the Ubehebe has eroded tremendously, unlike Little Hebe's, whose rim is almost impeccable, proving that Little Hebe is much younger. National Geographic reported the fact that the ages of the craters are still unknown. New research, though, suggests that the Ubehebe crater could be as young as 800 years old and can still be volcanically active. This crater will not explode without warning, though. It will give plenty of warnings through hydrothermal and seismic activities. There are still many questions that need to be answered about this magnificent crater, like, will it erupt? How old is it? Where did the name come from? But not having this knowledge does not impede anyone from appreciating its striking presence.
Okay, I'm Barbara Durham. I'm a member of the Timbisha Shoshone tribe. I live here in Death Valley, and I'm employed by the tribe as a THPO, which is Tribal Historic Preservation Officer. And my people have always lived here. My grandmas, my grandpas, lived here. They've passed on now, and now it's up to my generation and younger to continue inhabiting our homelands here. It's been, I would think a long time ago it was probably an easier life, although it probably was hard for them at that time, because in the summertime they would go up into the mountains, which is the Panamint Mountains right here, which are our sacred mountains, and we had a camp up there, and people would go camp there during the summer months, or go up into Nevada area and stay there for the summer and then come back down here in the winter. We moved out. We lived all over the floor of the valley here, and each time our people would stay there, someone else would come in and say, "Well, you have to move because we're going to build something here," or "You'll have to move because this is good land, and so we're going to do something else here." So the last place we got moved to was the visitor center, where the visitor center is now, and from there we got placed down here. And this is where we are. It was 40 acres of land here, and at one time it was circled by barbed wire. We had one of our little girls ran into that fence a couple of times, got cut up by it real bad, and after that we just took the whole barbed wire down because it was just useless. I mean, to have us encircled by barbed wire. So anyway, our tribe became fairly recognized in 1983, but we weren't given any land because we lived in a national park. And it wasn't until the California Desert Protection Act was going through in the 1990s when we decided we better do something because it was going to enlarge the park, and we needed to have some language in there for a study for reservation lands. So language was added on the floor by Representative Jerry Lewis at that time, who was our representative, for a study for suitable reservation lands inside and outside the national park. So it took a while for that to happen. The tribe had to push the park to get to the table and make sure that they were serious about it. We wanted to have decision makers there. And we created a land restoration committee, which I was a member of, and so were my elders here. And we did a lot of negotiating back and forth with the federal government, but we were able to put together a secretarial report for reservation lands here in the national park and outside. And the bill was passed October 1, year 2000 by President Clinton, which gave us over 7,000 acres of California Nevada lands, with 614 acres right here in the heart of Death Valley National Park, and we're the first tribe to have land in a national park. So it was something great. We all celebrated. We had a big celebration. I think it was more of people recognizing who we were, what we went through, and that we belong here, that this is our home, and nobody can take it away from us.
Harmony Borax Works was the central feature in the opening of Death Valley and the subsequent popularity of the Furnace Creek area. The plant and associated town site played an important role in Death Valley history. After borax was found near Furnace Creek Ranch, then called Greenland, in 1881, William T. Coleman built the Harmony plant and began to process ore in late 1883 or early 1884. The Harmony operation became famous through the use of large mule teams and double wagons which hauled borax the long overland route to Mojave. The romantic image of the 20-mule team persists to this day and has become the symbol of the borax industry in this country. The Harmony plant went out of operation in 1888 after only 5 years of production, when Coleman's financial empire collapsed. Rhyolite, the Queen City, was the largest town in Death Valley, with a population of 5,000 to 10,000 people. During its heyday from 1905 to 1911, it contained 2 churches, 50 saloons, 18 stores, 2 undertakers, 19 lodging houses, 8 doctors, 2 dentists, a stock exchange, and an opera. The town contains numerous ruins, including the Bottle House, Senator W.A. Clark's train depot, remains of a 3-story bank building, and the jail. It is on BLM land and is accessible by passenger car. Rhyolite is located 4 miles west of Beatty and 35 miles from the Furnace Creek Visitor Center. Copper and lead claims had been filed in the Leadfield area as early as 1905, but it wasn't until 1926 that the area was heavily mined. In February of that year, Charles C. Julian, a flamboyant California promoter, became president of the town's leading mining company, the Western Lead Mines. Julian's promotions were responsible for bringing great numbers of people into the area, and in April 1926, the town was laid out with 1,749 lots. The financial downfall of Charles Julian and the playing out of lead in one of the main mines led to the end of the town. The area is scattered with mines, dumps, tunnels, and prospect holes. There are the remains of wood and tin buildings, a dugout, and cement foundations of the mill. The town is located on the Titus Canyon Road. This is a one-way, high-clearance, unpaved road that sometimes requires 4-wheel drive. Hidden in the green oasis of Grapevine Canyon in the far northern Death Valley, the Death Valley Ranch, or Scotty's Castle as it is more commonly known, is a window into the life and times of the Roaring Twenties and Depression 30s. It was and is an engineer's dream home, a wealthy matron's vacation home, and a man of mysteries hideout and getaway. Walter Scott, Death Valley Scotty, convinced everyone that he had built the castle with money from his rich secret mines in the area. Albert Johnson actually built the house as a vacation getaway for himself and his wife Bessie. Scott was the mystery, the cowboy, and the entertainer, but he was also a friend. Albert was the brains and the money, 2 men as different as night and day, from different worlds and with different visions, who shared a dream. Tours of Scotty's Castle are available every day. Take a living history tour and step back into 1939. Death Valley is a land of extremes. From scorching deserts to icy peaks, from bone-dry valleys to salty creeks. Death Valley is a fascinating place to see not only the diversity of geology, but also the diversity of life. In Death Valley, we can see how life can adapt to even the most extreme of environments. We hope you've enjoyed this brief look at Death Valley National Park.